My name is John Becker. For the past 4 decades, I've dedicated my life to protecting tactical operators. During this time, I've worked with many of the world's top law enforcement and military units. As a result, I've had the privilege of working with the amazing leaders who take teams into the world's most dangerous situations. The goal of this podcast is to share their stories in hopes of making us all better leaders, better thinkers, and better people. Welcome to the Debrief. My guest today is Lieutenant Lee McMillian. Lee is currently one of the 2 lieutenants leading the Los Angeles Police Department's Metropolitan Division D Platoon, which is better known as LAPD SWAT. In total, Lee has spent 33 years as a Los Angeles policeman, of which 23 years have been spent at Metro, 21 with D Platoon. Lee is one of only 3 men to have ever served at all possible ranks at D Platoon: officer, +1, sergeant, and lieutenant. Lee, I appreciate you joining me today on the Debrief.
Thank you, John. It's my pleasure to be here.
Let's start with your history. Let's go back to kind of where you started when your career started with LAPD.
So I started the police academy when I was 21 years old. That was May of 1988. After the police academy, my first patrol assignment was Rampart Division. Then I went to Southeast Division, was there for almost 4 years. I did a very brief stint as a firearms instructor. I won't get into how I had to navigate that into my career path to keep my P3 stripes and remain eligible to go to Metro Division.
Fair enough.
And then I went to Metro Division in April of 1994. 2 years later, I went through SWAT selection, and then after assignment to SWAT, I was in the platoon for 11 years, and the back 4 of those, I was an element leader.
Okay. And then at that point, what happened? Did you promote and rotate out, or?
I did. So it was summer of 2007. I made sergeant. I went to 77th Division, where I spent about 19 months, and then as good fortune has it, I was able to come back to SWAT as a sergeant or a squad leader.
Got it. And then how long were you there the second time?
So I was a sergeant in SWAT for a little under 4 years when I just took the lieutenant's test and my number came up. So I made lieutenant in October of 2012. And then I was gone about 2.5 years before, once again, the stars aligned. And I'll have to say that each time I left SWAT and promoted out, I never expected to be able to come back.
Wow.
You just have to be good in your mind. It's that pyramid structure where like there are less positions the higher you go in the rank structure.
Sure.
So when you promote out, you have to be good with never ever coming back and just find another career path. And there's plenty of great job opportunities on the LAPD, and I was gonna find my way into other career opportunities. But just as good fortune and cosmic energy have it, I was able to come back. Not only as a sergeant, but also as a lieutenant.
So why don't we talk a little bit about the history of D Platoon? I think everybody's familiar with LA SWAT, but like from a history standpoint, when did D Platoon start?
So LAPD SWAT started in, the first roll call was actually December of 1966. So it had been on the back of the 1965 riots in Los Angeles. It had been after the Charles Whitman incident, which was, I believe, the summer of 1966,
the
Texas Tower. And so there were these increasingly provocative police incidents where the law enforcement community realized that there would need to be enhancement of tactical proficiency and resources to handle these. So again, it was December of 1966 was the first roll call. Although we say 1967 is our anniversary year because it was late in December and we just don't want to eat up that whole year. So it was a part-time platoon for nearly 5 years until November of 1971. During the part-time period, there were 176 personnel, men, who rotated through the platoon. And it was a part-time assignment, as I said, so you could be a Hollywood detective or you could be a patrol cop in just in any division, and those personnel would get together for a couple days every month and train in what they were still figuring out were the responsibilities of SWAT. And if you figure the personnel, we had Korean War vets. It was during the Vietnam era, so some Vietnam vets. There might even been a World War II vet in there that would have been quite tenured on the department at the time. And then after some successes, specifically there was a Black Panther incident in 1969, and then in November of 71, SWAT came to Metro Division as a proper platoon and with the designator of D platoon. So, and that's where we've been ever since.
So in 71 was the point that it becomes a full-time assignment and is stood up as a full-time team.
Correct.
Okay. How big was it prior to that? Like how many personnel?
So as a part-time team, it was 4 squads of 10 each.
Okay, so about 40.
Yeah, 40. So 4 squads, 10 each. And then when it came to Metro as D platoon, about the first couple deployment periods, it remained 4 squads, 10 each, and then soon thereafter bumped to 6 squads of 10 each, so 60 officers. And that's our structure today, is 60 officers. We actually have 7 sergeants. 6 of those sergeants are squad leaders, as I mentioned, the 6 10-officer squads. And then we have an additional administrative sergeant position that can rotate through if a sergeant is injured on duty or goes on vacation. Somebody can backfill the squad and also handle admin. And then there are 2 lieutenants. And the 2 lieutenants are myself, and then my partner is Ruben Lopez. And after an incident in 2005 is when they expanded that structure, so it would just be greater lieutenant coverage. And bottom line is just one guy can't stay awake that much.
Yeah,
So-
it's fair. So 1971, the unit becomes a full-time unit. By then, the Black Panther shootout was in 1969.
Correct.
So 69 is Black Panther shootout. 71, the team becomes full-time. 74, the SLA shootout occurs.
Yes.
Okay. So it's kind of pre full-time and then post full-time SLA happens. And that's really the genesis of the team as most people see it.
Correct. So when it was a part-time team, there were various successes at different deployments, and one of the bigger, more prominent was obviously the Black Panther incident in 1969. So actually, if you look at our emblem, it's the eagle and holding the lightning bolt and the banner, and then the banner has a 41 and a 54 on it. So the 41 stands for 41st and Central, which is the intersection of the Black Panther incident in 1969. And then if we're going to talk about the SLA incident in 1974, then that was at 54th and Compton. So just 2 significant landmark incidents with success and brought notoriety to the team, and also fostered that confidence with the chain of command that this is a team that can handle these sorts of incidents, and it just furthered the evolution.
Yeah, because I mean, 74, well, even 71 when the team becomes full-time, this is still a pretty radical idea.
Yes.
Right, like this is not, LAPD literally coined the term SWAT,
Right.
and this is kind of a radical idea to have a special weapons and tactics team, especially a full-time special weapons and tactics team. Talk a little bit about the origin, and so it was Jeff Rogers and Daryl Gates, if I remember correctly, that coined the phrase.
So I know Daryl Gates was an inspector in December of '66 when this whole thing started. So obviously he was a very prominent chief of ours for, I believe, 13 years. But before he had promoted to that rank, he had this concept of a police unit with enhanced capability. Just watching the trends in law enforcement and the increased danger, provocative nature of them. And so what are we going to do to prepare for it when it hits Los Angeles? So yes, SWAT was the brainchild of Daryl Gates, then inspector, and he was actually a driver for Chief Parker at the time.
Yeah.
And then obviously as he promoted to the rank of chief, then the platoon had wide support throughout the chain of command because he is now the chief and it was his concept. I know that there's some I don't say conflict, disagreement, but the overall premise is that SWAT started with LAPD, and there may be other law enforcement entities out there. I'm not going to arrogantly state that it started with us, and that's the way it is. There are 17,000 law enforcement agencies in the United States. So if one of them had a variation on the theme and just didn't call it SWAT at the time, I certainly give them credit for what they've done. But for bringing the term special weapons and tactics and attaching that to a police unit that's a full-time team, I believe that credit does go to the LAPD.
Yeah, and I think like from a historical context, right? So you look at Black Panther and put Black Panther in greater context, right? At that point, you're having Weather Underground and events where police cars are being blown up. There's a lot of civil unrest, Watts riots. Internationally, you have the Munich massacre. You're having hostage takings. Like it kind of sets up this environment where you look at Munich and law enforcement quickly realizes like there can be problems here that we're not prepared for.
Correct.